Hello and welcome to a very special video. Today I'm going to talk about how much I dislike what's gone on with 40K in terms of story, the new 40K direction, and I'm going to relate it to a video game that I remember playing a great deal and was especially quite entertaining to me. Now, back in the day, I was very big on Resident Evil, especially 1 through 3. 4 was fine, but I felt it lost a number of elements from the earlier games. Now, that's not to get into some war. I still liked 4, but for me, one of the worst things that happened with Resident Evil was this weird trend Capcom had basically kind of befall them, where they've come back and they've started remaking the games in the least faithful way they can possibly do so. Removing elements, effectively ignoring others, and effectively just building the games like they were based off the highlight reels for the originals. What do I mean by that? So a really good example is in the original Resident Evil 2, Mr. X did not show up till the B scenario. What is the B scenario? Well, you would play the A scenario, and then you'd have a B scenario. So you play through the game once, and there's certain placements and enemies and events that occur during that. Well, you would put the B scenario disc in, and it would be largely the same game, but they would remix a few things, like some placements of gear, some enemies, little changes, very, very little ones. But then what they did was they threw in Mr. X. And you'd get a brand new cinematic that you would be like, oh, I don't remember this. And then, bam, dude comes crashing through the walls as you're walking back through something that you're like, well, that's weird. But you carried on. And then he would change up the game and what would happen later in that game. So it was really quite a nice change, especially when you played through the game and you thought you knew what to expect. The remakes of it are effectively cutting out the entire A scenario and just highlighting and hyperfixating on the B scenario. And it has this kind of issue. And I would say it's the nemesis effect. Chasers have been in horror games for God knows how long. They've been around for a while. They're a fairly popular thing. But Nemesis effectively really hyped them up. He was a big standout villain for them in terms of Resident Evil, and they've replicated him over and over and over. And now he comes somewhat from Resident Evil 2's B scenario, Mr. X. He's an extrapolation and a refinement of it to a degree. The problem becomes is that you lose a huge amount of the game in sand so that you can constantly focus on this chaser to try to build up the dread and the things. But you lose a lot, and it's the retcons to a number of the games, story elements and why it plays out, and things that people largely, at least the people in the terms of development, seem to have had an active bone to pick with. And as far as I'm concerned, it made me increasingly dislike the remakes as nothing more than ways to retcon out what people had enjoyed about those originals. And also to not give newer players at least a somewhat similar experience, even if it was a different style of game than what had come before. Effectively, it was drawing a giant line between the older people who enjoyed the games from the start and the newer folks. And it was a line that didn't have to be drawn. And this is very similar with 40K. I can talk about forever about how I really disliked a great deal of things that they had done with 40K in 6th edition, 7th edition, even in 5th edition. That's the Moscow Mule getting at me. That griped my ass, that just chafed me in the wrong way. And a lot of those would start with what I would refer to as Matt Wardisms, a lot of bad trends he started, like ruining the Ultramarines for me personally. And the Gathering Storm effectively is, to me, like the Resident Evil remakes are to me in terms of what I enjoyed about Resident Evil. And it is a hard line drawn in the sand that is meant to purposely separate people. It doesn't matter if the company doesn't want to admit this. It doesn't matter if the company wants to say, oh, no, that's not what we're doing. It doesn't matter because that is what it does. It is a dividing line from the old and the new, and a statement of going, well, all of that was dumb and stupid. Now we have all the new shiny stuff. And I could talk about the different stories and what I don't like and what I do like, and it just seems pointless because, one, this is not to insult newer fans, people who like newer things. I am in no way trying to go after you. It's me saying explicitly, this was something done intentionally to cut people out that did not want what was to come after it. This is something along the lines of all of those idiots that repeatedly kept pushing the company line of, oh, the Primaris aren't going to replace the original Space Marines. They're an enhancement of. They're to help them, bring them up and make them more exciting. And then all of those individuals are stunningly silent when anyone brings up the fact that that's the line they passed as they actively replace the original Marines. But what I hate most is that it is an attempt, subconsciously or consciously, to cut out the past, to destroy it if you have to throw it down a well and pretend like it didn't happen. It is in such a manner that it is meant to create a divide, because there are the people that they want to continue on and the people that they don't want to continue on. And that is what bothers me the most, is it doesn't have to be that way. Why can't we have both? Why can't we have the older stuff be celebrated and the newer stuff find its footing and earn its place, as opposed to being imposed on us? And that's just the thing that bothers me, and it really does make me have a lot of trouble when it comes to talking about 40K, and you might have noticed it. I like to talk about these things so that I can give my opinions, and I can try to help people who might be sitting on the fence or just at the very least want to hear me talk about them. But it's difficult to love something that hates you. And, well, if it really did care, then where are all these special things for the older Marines and special things to celebrate the past of 40K that puts it right up in the same prominence as the new 40K? All I see is a gulf of new trash that is having to cop off the old homework of the past to try to give itself any bearing, any interest, in anything that people actually want. You can see that with the newer updates to the Space Wolves. You can see it with some of their newer Primaris characters. You can see that they have to constantly touch on the past, but they're so unwilling to let you have the older stuff that you go, okay, well, why are the Death Watch not just older Marines? Why are the Death Watch just reused Primaris that just have a few new knacks on them, a few new weapon options at best? Why is it that the past is constantly being shunned so that you can try to promote the newer stuff, but you have to constantly code it in the past? That's just my opinions, and I just wanted to be straight up and honest with you guys. What do you guys think? Am I being unreasonable? Am I being cruel to people? Do you guys want to see me talk about some more of what I think is really affecting the hobby. Give me an idea what you guys would like to see. And of course, as always, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, because I do respond to every comment that I get that I know I have, unless YouTube hides it from me. And I try to get a response. If I don't get one to you, I'm sorry. I usually try to. But hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.